I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want to do that because that'll tarnish his legacy as well as my legacy.
Let's see at 46 how hard Manny works, and if he still got it. I wouldn't completely count him out. That's all.
This isn't a matchup with no real stakes or an exhibition against a YouTuber. Manny Pacquiao is officially back. The boxing world is in shock, and even Floyd Mayweather had something to say after seeing the leaked footage of Manny's training. Let's get right to the point, though. Some fighters are born to defy the odds, and at 46, Manny Pacquiao is living proof of that. He is jumping straight into the fire against the current WBC Welterweight champion, Mario Barrios. The fight is reportedly scheduled for July 19th in Las Vegas, and Pacquiao is already in camp looking sharp, quick, and surprisingly fresh. In one of the most talked about comebacks in boxing history, the renowned Filipino boxer is returning to the ring prepared to take on Father Time and a dangerous young opponent. His opponent is none other than 29-year-old rising star Mario Barrios, who has youth, speed, and desire on his side.
46-year-old Manny Pacquiao coming out of retirement to face 29-year-old Mario Barrios for the WBC Welterweight Championship on July 19th in Las Vegas. That's according.
Most people thought that Pacquiao's historic career, which spanned over 2 decades, 8 weight divisions, and innumerable memorable moments, was over when he first hung up his gloves on September 29th, 2021. However, 4 years later, he is donning the gloves once more. This time with gold on the line.
Wild news. Look, in the boxing underground rumor mill, this had been floating around for a couple months. We just didn't know if it was going to be for real. Was Manny really going to commit to not just coming back after 4 years away, after just one fight in the last 6 years, at age 46, but to come back directly into a title fight against a young, in his prime, active champion, Mario Barrios? It's interesting theater, to say the least. It's a pay-per-view main event, reportedly for July.
Scheduled for July 2025. This bout is officially sanctioned by a WBC rule that permits legendary champions to request title opportunities upon returning from retirement, something reserved for fighters of Pacquiao's stature and legacy. Pacquiao versus Barrios will be fought for the WBC Welterweight title, a belt Pacquiao once held with pride.
Report. Pacquiao last fought in 2021 when he lost to Yordenis Ugas. Barrios won the WBC welterweight title from Ugas in 2023. His last fight was a split decision against Abel Ramos on the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson undercard in November. Pacquiao career record 62-8-2 with 39 knockouts. Barrios 29-2-1.
To consider this generational conflict in viewpoint. Since the fight announcement, Pacquiao hasn't wasted a second training camp, and leaked footage from his gym sent shockwaves through the boxing world. Fans expected to see an aging veteran trying to recapture a spark, but instead they saw vintage Pacquiao, fast, sharp, explosive power. Pacquiao made his professional debut at the age of 16, but Mario Barrios hadn't even been born yet. Fast forward nearly 3 decades, and the two are now set to clash in what can only be described as a modern-day GLA. He moved with the quickness and accuracy of a fighter in his prime, rather than a man who was getting close to 50. The video generated discussion on social media. Is Pacquiao really back and capable of pulling this off? Or is this the last flash of brilliance before the curtain comes down? Whether you're rooting for the legend or placing a wager on the future, there's no denying that this bout is destined to be more than a comeback. Rather, it's a battle of eras.
I'm not saying the odds will be high that he's going to come back and pull this upset or even be ultra competitive. But again, it's sort of like Manny's already superhuman. turning pro at like age 15 or 16 at 106 pounds and winning titles in 8 divisions. And oh, by the way, 2 fights ago for Manny in 2019, he came out of retirement and beat an unbeaten Keith Thurman for the welterweight title at the age of 40. There's very few greats that you can call all-time greats, and I think sometimes even above that category, there's that upper room. Is Manny Pacquiao one of those in boxing history?
Another video of Manny Pacquiao recently went viral online, but this time it wasn't from a training camp or sparring session. Rather, it showed him moving around a room in a casual manner. What's amazing, though, is that even in this laid-back environment, Pacquiao's speed is astounding. It seems like his hands are moving in fast forward while the rest of the world plays in real time.
Right. When you sort of back in like, woo, woo. The speed is still there. Woo!
Everyone in boxing knows that speed fades first, power fades last, but Manny obviously didn't get that memo because the speed is still there, and it's frighteningly fast. This confirms what fans have been quietly suspecting for a while. Pacquiao never really stopped training, even during retirement when he was officially out of the ring. He is a warrior through and through, and that speed is supposed to be the first thing to go as fighters age.
The last thing to go is power, yes. Manny was also absurdly fast in his prime. So like a Roy Jones Jr. who hung on far too long, but was still fighting professionally at the age of 50, he still got speed that kind of compares to the average or above average speed that's out.
It's really kind of unbelievable. Pacquiao is one of those few individuals who seems to be successful at everything he does outside of the ring. He wasn't just lounging or going on media tours, he was running for the Philippine Senate in public. Service boxing. He is a machine, and it truly begs the question of how someone manages to balance all of this while still maintaining the movements of a top athlete.
That's how aside from boxing, I entered to politics because I want to serve honestly, to help the people. And I want to be an example, to be a good example to the politician here in the Philippines.
The answer lies in Manny's mindset. You can sense that he is aiming for greatness rather than just financial gain. The atmosphere is reminiscent of George Foreman's historic comeback in the 1990s when he shocked everyone by winning the heavyweight title at 45. Pacquiao is hoping to accomplish something similar, but in a division where quick reflexes and stamina are even more important.
Oh, Manny Pacquiao has always brought big business, but now he's going to bring it in more of the late career George Foreman type of way to etch himself into that record book even further. Can Manny do it? I mean, look, the odds are certainly against him, but there's one thing about certain legends in this game. Think Bernard Hopkins, who fought into a very late age. Some of them, as long as they can physically get themselves into that ring, sometimes they can reproduce magic for one night. So it's a romantic situation. I got cats walking around.
Yep.
People are excited to see the Pac-Man back. You just gotta kind of figure out, is this for real? Is he gonna be for real? Or are we gonna send him into a physical, violent...
And let's not forget that people are beginning to take note. One of the most well-known persons to respond recently was none other than Joe Roger, who was astounded to see footage of Pacquiao's comeback on his podcast. You could hear the amazement in his voice.
And he's such an unusual guy. You know what's crazy about him is his calves.
Yeah,
When you look
massive.
at that, they're giant. They're like a thigh.
He discussed how it simply doesn't make sense for someone to fight like that at 46. Roger even commended Pacquiao's genetics, pointing out those incredibly large calves in particular.
Legend, and he's such an unusual guy. You know what's crazy about him is his calves.
Yeah,
When you look
massive.
at that, they're giant. They're
George
like a thigh.
Cambasos Jr., his guest boxer, then jumped in and broke it down, saying that Pacquiao's calves aren't just for show, they're the result of decades of arduous training, including hill sprints, endless road work, and intense lower body conditioning that gives him the explosiveness that bounces in his step. His training methods aren't magic. They're the highest level of discipline and dedication.
The reason why, because in General Santos, the mountains that he runs and that steep hill, that's why they're so big. because he's always constantly running the mountains. And I was doing the mountain runs with him.
Yeah.
My calves started getting bigger and bigger. But I understand, why his calves are huge. But he's always bouncing, he's always moving around.
Yes.
He'll bounce for like 20-something rounds. He'll do his pads and he's jumping up and down. And he really is an unbelievable person, unbelievable athlete, and a legend of the sport. I think as time progresses, people are really gonna,
When you
appreciate
consider
his
it, it's simple to undervalue a man who comes out. We assume that Pacquiao's opponents are rusty slows chasing a final paycheck, but every new video that emerges features a fighter who appears more skilled than many of the guys in the top 10, which is what makes this comeback so intriguing. He's not just making an appearance for a final fight. He's taking on Mario Barrios for the WBC Welterweight title, which is a serious opponent that's a real challenge, and it speaks volumes that the WBC even approved it, since they are aware of who Manny Pacquiao is. Not some cheesy spectacle, but a legend who may still have what it takes. In addition to shocking fans, one well-known face was drawn to Pacquiao's comeback to boxing. The boxing community was taken aback by Floyd Mayweather's abrupt return to the squared circle from politics, but Pacquiao's longtime opponent had perhaps the most intriguing response. The two fighters have one of the most illustrious histories in contemporary boxing, and for years Floyd never missed an opportunity to make a verbal jab. Manny's trash talk, mocking, contemptuous interviews. In an uncommon display of humility, Floyd referred to Manny as one of the greatest boxers of all time, which is a huge statement coming from a man who has never been shy about his own greatness. Their rivalry was fierce and frequently personal, but now things are different. Mayweather surprisingly took a much more respectful tone when asked about Pacquiao's comeback.
Manny Pacquiao, I think that he's one of the best.
Floyd also thought back on their eagerly anticipated fight in 2015, which was dubbed the fight of the century. He acknowledged that their fight didn't occur at the ideal moment in their careers, but he pointed out that at least they did fight, acknowledging the significance of that evening, even though it happened a few years later than it should have.
We didn't come together when we wanted to, but we were able to come together and get the fans to help.
However, the next big question was whether Floyd would ever think about rematching with Pacquiao, and the answer was probably no. Mayweather has made it clear that he is not interested in a rematch, saying that it would not honor their respective histories. Whether you agree with him or not, you must respect the mindset that Floyd's unbeaten Pacquiao is a legend and that they have solidified their legacies. Going back now could muddy the waters.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want to do that because that'll tarnish his legacy.
Thus, as the world watches Pacquiao prepare for a championship battle in 2025, even though it's unlikely that Mayweather will be facing him again, the respect that exists between the two once aggressive rivals is something that fans didn't anticipate, and serves as a potent reminder of how quickly time can turn even the fiercest rivalries into embarrassing moments. However, do you fight fans still believe that Manny Pacquiao has the will to reach the top of boxing? Please let us know in the comment section below if you think the Filipino great has a true chance of defeating the young champion and regaining the welterweight belt, or if you think their forthcoming fight is a mismatch. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more news like this.